Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Georgi Matveev, sitting here at David's Guitar Loft Lesson Studio in Webster Groves, Missouri, or right outside St. Louis. What's up? And today, dude, we're going to be talking about triads on the guitar. If you don't know what triads are, they're just 3-note chords, right? If you know E minor, C major, all these chords, they're made up of triads, 3-note chords. And most of the time, even if you've been playing guitar for a little bit, I'm sure you're very familiar with these open chords. C, D, G, all these chords. These are all triads, and they're super cool, super useful, but a lot of times players get stuck playing them in this region. We're going to talk about playing triads on the first 3 strings of our guitar. There's a bunch of different systems on how you can incorporate this. The system I use, there's not really a name, but I just call them like root first, or root second, and root third, right? So root meaning the root note of the chord, and then the number first, second, third, indicating what string it's on. Let's say we play this A minor chord here. This would be a root first triad because A is on the first string, and then we're playing the other 2 notes in the triad on the second and third string. What's really cool about this is these shapes are movable, and depending on where you are, if you're playing root first, second, or third, the shapes are all the same in conjunction to the string the root is on, right? So let's talk about root first triads. So that first example I showed you was an A minor triad, an A minor chord. It's right here. So if we look, A is on the 5th fret of the first string. Then on the 5th fret of the second string, we have E. And then the 5th fret of the third string, we have C. So an A minor triad is built off those 3 notes, A, C, and E. Easiest way to build a triad, if you're really new to it, is you start on your root note and you just go every other letter. All right, so you play A, skip B, you go to C, skip D, you go to E. A, C, E. That's your root, your third, and then your 5th. We'll get into the major and minor stuff in a bit. So this is your A minor triad in root first position. Okay? Now, what if we wanted to make it an A major triad? Well, then we have to take the third in A and raise it up a half step to C sharp. So we just have to find where C sharp is. So we know C is here on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. So we just take this note and you just move it over 1 fret. And now you play this. There's your A major chord. A major, A minor. So these are the 2 minor and major shapes in this root first position. So what's really cool about these shapes is you can just take this shape and move it anywhere on the fretboard and it's going to be a minor triad. Or if you do this shape, it's going to be a major triad. And all you need to know is what the note is on the first string. If we take our A major shape, right, which is the 6th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret on the 2nd string, and 5th fret on the 1st string, and we want to move it down to G, you just take this shape and you move everything together until your first string note is on G, which is just 2 frets away or a whole step away. So here's A major, and then here's G major, right? And then you go back again, and here's F major. And so this applies to the minor chords as well. So A minor, G minor, F minor, all right there. And what's really cool about that is now you have options, and I love options. Now we have options on playing the same chord just in a different spot on the fretboard, offering us a different timbre, different taste, sometimes a different harmony depending on what it is, right? So we can take this concept and let's take a song like Hurt by Johnny Cash. It's just 3 chords. It's A minor, C, right, and then D. A minor, C major, D major. Well, now you can apply the root first position system. A minor is here, right, 5th fret. So you just play the minor triad, and then you move and find where C is, which is going to be on the 8th fret, and then you play just the root first major triad shape, which is this, right? 9th fret on the 3rd string, 8th fret on the 2nd, and 8th fret on the 1st. And then you find where D major is, which is going to be a whole step from C. So then you move this shape, and and you move it in conjunction with where the first string needs to go. So we're going to take this shape, move it up a whole step, like that. Okay? Now we can take that, now let's apply, maybe give it a little bit of a different twist. Maybe you're just learning guitar and you want to play it a little bit easier. And now you can do something like, it's not going to have the same exact feel as like the Johnny Cash version, but if you're like a songwriter, composer, and you're just trying to experiment and add more textures, more layers to a song, you can do something like that. You can take this chord progression and maybe over the top of that, you do something like a, something like that, right, dude? So that's the essence of, root first, major, minor chords. So let's talk about root second shapes now. Okay, so let's stay on A minor, right? So we're on A minor. What's cool about this is now we can look at the notes in A minor. So in our second string, 5th fret, we have E. So now we want to build an E minor or E major triad from this. So here's E. Let's do E minor, a little bit easier. Every other note, right? So we're going to go E, skip F, go to G. So E, G, skip A, and go to B. E, G, B. Those are the 3 notes we need for an E minor triad. So here's E, that's our root. G is right here on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And then B is going to be on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Just like that. Kind of sounds like the intro to Island in the Sun by Weezer. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what that is. So now this is your root second minor triad shape, this right here. And if you're familiar with guitar at least a little bit, you've probably played a D minor chord, right? And it's literally that shape without the open 4th string. You just move it down here and you're just playing it from the 3rd string down. So now you can take this shape, and as long as you move the root note on the 2nd string wherever, and you have this shape, it's always going to be a minor chord. So here's E minor, here's F minor, here's G minor, here's A minor, here's B minor, C minor, and so on and so forth. So now we want to look at, okay, well, what's the major chord for this shape? So again, a major chord and a minor chord, the difference is the 3rd. So a minor chord has a minor 3rd, which is just a whole step and a half step away from the root. A major chord has 2 whole steps from the root to the 3rd. So the 3rd in this is G. So we want to raise G up a half step to the 4th fret. So now we have this shape for a minor. So if we want to do the major chord version, you just flip-flop your fingers, and now we have 4th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret on the 2nd string, and 4th fret on the 1st string. And again, this shape, very familiar, it's your D major shape. We're just excluding the 4th string for right now. So now an E major chord from the 3rd string down is going to be 4th fret, 5th fret, and 4th fret of the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. And so just like before, this is our major triad shape root second position. So you can take this E major chord, move it to F major, G major, A major, B major, C major, right? And that's pretty cool. So now between those 2 shapes, you can do F major, maybe go to G minor, A minor, and then maybe we're gonna hit that B flat major if we're in the key of F. And so now, even now between these 2 shapes, if we wanted to play a chord progression where we go, I don't know, maybe we go from A minor to F major. Instead of having to move this shape all the way here to the first position, if we're doing the root first thing, now we can just go to that shape here. So here's A minor, root first, then we go to F major, root second, and that's right there. So maybe we want to complete this chord progression. We want to go from A minor, F, C, and then G. Well, with what we know so far, we can do that. We go to root first A minor, then we go to root second F, then you go to root first C major, just gonna be down on the 8th fret. Then you go to root first G major on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. Right? So now that all that together, right? Now you got a cool little chord progression. Root 3rd position, right? So same thing. Let's start with A minor. Okay, and from our root first A minor shape, we have C on the 3rd string. Now we need to make a C major triad from the 3rd string. Okay, and we're doing a root 3rd major chord, so we got to build that up. So C is our roots. Again, every other note. So C, skip D, go to E, then you skip F, go to G. C, E, G are our 3 notes for a C major triad. All right, so let's build up a C major triad. So we have C on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. We have E on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. And then we have G on the 3rd fret of the 1st string here. So there's your C major chord, root 3rd position. Right? And then so if you wanted to now take this major chord and make it a minor chord, you take the 3rd and you lower it by a half step. So E is on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. That's our 3rd. So we're going to lower it to E flat. So we go from this major triad shape. There's our minor chord. Okay? So now our 2 shapes for the major and minor chord triads from the root 3rd position is this and this. So now, just like before, we can take this shape and move this anywhere on the fingerboard, and wherever our finger is on the 3rd string, that's our root note. So here's C major, here's D major, E major, F major, G major, right? All right there. And then if you want to do the minor chord, well, that's going to be this, C minor, D minor, E minor, F minor, G minor. They're all going to be there everywhere. So now this is where it gets interesting, because now you can take all 6 of those shapes, right? We have 2 shapes on the 1st string, 2 shapes on the 2nd string, and 2 shapes on the 3rd string. You can take all 6 of those shapes and kind of play them in whatever order you want to get whatever kind of sound you want, right? So if you wanted to do a chord progression with A, F, C, G, we can play A minor, root 1st. We can play F, root 2nd. We can play C, root 3rd. And then we can play G, root 1st. And now we're not really moving that far on the fingerboard. We're just staying in this 3rd position, 5th position area. Right? And you have all sorts of options. You don't have to do that. Maybe you want to go from A minor, you do F, then you do C here, root 1st, then you do G, root 2nd, right? Now that gives us a little bit of a different kind of tone, right? And really, this is just like the tip of the iceberg, because you can take this exact concept and apply it for the 4th string, 5th string, 6th string, and so on and so forth. And a lot of these shapes are just little slices of like our bar chords that some of us might already know, right? So like this A major chord, right? The last half, the higher half of this chord, right, from 3rd string down, is just root 1st triad of a major triad, right? And then the minor chord like this without the middle finger, again, it's root 1st minor triad. It's all there. So the more you kind of learn and go up, you'll see like, oh, all these chords kind of mesh well together, but it's cool to isolate them and think about them as their own thing. And don't even get me started on like soloing, right? Because Now, once you kind of get comfortable with that, you can just take these little sections here, right? And you can apply different kind of melodies around certain chords if you wanted to do something like that. A lot of fun stuff here. A lot to learn. This is something I go over with all my students all the time. I think it's very necessary to learn if you really want to get the most out of the guitar and go beyond just these open position cowboy chords, right? All right, and that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, comment, do all the stuff that helps the channel grow. If you're in the Webster Grove, St. Louis area, come by the shop, check out some guitars, play some stuff. If you want to take a lesson with me or the 8 other or 9, whatever, amazing instructors we have here, definitely do so. You can go on our website, go to the lessons page, fill out the form, and we'll get you squared away and get you going on some fun lessons. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.